Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Today we're diving into a very interesting topic that came up on Stack Overflow. We're discussing a peculiar issue where the term Chucknorris is being interpreted as a color in HTML.
Oh, really? That sounds intriguing, Bill. How can a name like Chucknorris even resemble a color?
Great question, Laura. This usually happens because Chucknorris resembles a hexadecimal code format. When the browser parses this term, it thinks it's a color code.
So the browser gets confused because it thinks it's reading a color instead of just a name?
Exactly. When you throw in something like Chucknorris into your CSS, the browser tries to interpret it as a color. If it's invalid or unknown, things can get a bit messy.
Messy? How so?
Well, elements with invalid or unknown color names can lead to unexpected behavior in styling and layout. This could cause everything from color issues to layout shifts, which is something every developer wants to avoid.
That's fascinating. So what are the common pitfalls developers run into regarding CSS color parsing?
One common pitfall is not using valid color names. Instead of checking if the color is recognized, the browser attempts to render it, leading to errors that might not be immediately obvious.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. If a developer were to use a made-up color like rainbow glow, the browser simply won't know what to do with it. The result is undefined.
I can see how that can lead to confusion. So what can developers do to avoid these issues?
Great question, Laura. First and foremost, you should always use valid color names. The CSS color specifications have a range of standard colors that you can rely on.
And what about those cool things like gradients? Do they face similar issues?
Good point. Gradients can sometimes trip up developers too. If you're defining a gradient in error in spelling or format, it can lead to problems in rendering.
So, what should developers keep in mind when using gradients?
Always check the syntax. Use the correct format for gradients, like linear gradient or radial gradient, ensuring no spelling mistakes or typos.
That makes sense. But what about best practices for CSS in general?
That's a broad topic, but let's highlight a few key points. First, always use comments in your CSS. They help indicate intent and make the code easier to understand for others.
That's really helpful. What else?
Next, keep your styles organized. Use class names and IDs wisely to avoid conflicts and confusion.
Okay. Any more tips for us?
Yes. Take battery life and performance into account. Minimize the number of CSS rules and ensure they're performing optimally for better rendering speed.
And how can tools help with all this?
Absolutely. There are various tools out there such as linters and validators which can help catch these issues before they hit production.
That sounds fantastic. So what's the final takeaway from today's discussion?
Always ensure you're using valid color names in your CSS. The more you stick to valid standards, the less likely you are to encounter those pesky layout issues.
So, to summarize, the takeaway is to keep things simple, being mindful of your color choices and their formats, right?
You got it, Laura. Simple, correct choices lead to clean code and effective styling, which is what every developer strives for.
Thanks for the insights today, Bill. This was enlightening.
My pleasure, Laura. And for all our viewers, if you have your own stories of CSS mishaps, be sure to share them in the comments below.
Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tips and tricks.
Until next time, keep coding and stay curious.
Bye, everyone!
Bye!